Hi, I'm Kimberly with the Fat Quarter Shop, and today we have special guest Janet Platt of Quick Point Rulers with us, and we're going to make this adorable pink ruffle pillow, which I know my daughter will just love. So Janet, tell me what we're going to need to get started to make this pillow today.
Okay, what you'll need is the two 14.5-inch squares. And what I always do, you can do what you want, but I always make sure which way the stretch is. And I like the stretch going the same way on both.
Because the width of the fabric will stretch more than the length of the fabric,
Correct.
right?
Something my grandmother taught me. You know, good old grandma.
So do you want your ruffles to go,
Yes, this way.
you want them to go on
Right.
the same side as the stretchy?
Right.
Right.
Correct. Okay, this is the best zippers, honey. I don't like to buy the ones that you have to buy. This is exactly the same. This comes by the yard. Okay, so what I do is I put the teeth going toward the top, and
So
I
they're
just
right
pin
here.
it. I do the lazy way to do zippers. I'm not a real zipper lover. I kind of had a zipper fear, actually. And this is the way to do them, like the easy way. Let's make sure this matches pretty closey, because you got to match up the teeth. Once you start, so have it about like that. Here, let me move it over for you. So now you take your fabric to the sewing machine, you have your zipper foot on, and you're all ready, and your needle is in position. So I just sew it on so I have it on.
So tell me why you're using a zipper foot today instead of
Because-
just a regular foot.
Because you can get really close. Once I sew it on, then I can get really close to the zipper, and then it looks perfect. You can get as close as you can to the zipper. So you just sew this on. Of course, engage your walking foot. Now that we're done sewing, the next thing we do is you want to cover up the white part on the zipper and put the fabric as close as you can to the zipper, just not so that it gets caught in the zipper when you put the zipper pull on.
So you're just moving the fabric forward,
Correct.
folding it and pinning.
Correct.
How many inches apart are you pinning here?
I'm a pin queen, so pretty close, like maybe an inch,
Okay.
1.5 inches at the most. Now we're ready to sew. So you go to the sewing machine, have your zipper foot on, and the nice thing is you can move your needle. Let me move it just a little closer over to the teeth.
So in the previous step, your needle was on the left side of the foot, and on this step, your needle's on the right side of the foot.
Correct. And that's a nice thing. You can move it to the left or to the right. And you can get it like perfectly to the teeth. You don't want to get it so close to the teeth that you can't put the zipper on, but you want it as close as you can get. Now that we're done sewing the second half, now we get to the fun part. Now we're going to put on the pull. We're going to put them together. So I'm going to cut this evenly. This little piece can be thrown away. Let me make sure it's a little more even.
And so you're aligning the fabric.
Yep,
On
the
the
fabric
edges.
and the little zipper. You kind of want them just pretty darn close. Then the zipper pull is right here. So what you want to do is take this little guy and put it on like it would look. So you put this here, And then you put this here. And the hardest part is holding them together. And then you want to run it all the way through. Then you rip it apart. You just have to rip it through once, just to make sure they lock the next time you do them. There we go. So now we have a zipper. Okay, so the next step, what you want to do is you want to put on the scallops. This is the 2-inch scallops.
And you can watch our tutorial on how to make the scallops on a previous video.
What you want to do is make sure, because I like it hanging over the bottom of the zipper because I just like the way it looks.
So instead of right on the zipper, you're pushing it down a little bit.
Correct. So I make sure I go a 1/2 inch in, because that's what's going to be your seam. So I mark it here.
So 1/2 inch from the left, 1/2 inch from the right.
And I go here. Then what I have to do is take, and I measure this, and I measure this, and I add, where's my scissors? There they are. I add about 1/4. So what you want to do, so you have a finished edge, is you want to put right sides together.
So you unfold the scallop that you've made.
Correct. This is how you just finish off an edge. It's so simple.
So you're just putting right sides together, and are you going to use a 1/4 inch?
Yep. I just pin it.
And then once you sew that seam, your measurement is going to be exactly from point to point on the pillow.
Correct.
So you use a 1/4 inch foot.
Yep. Then you just do your 1/4 inch seam, or 1/4 inch, going down. Always backstitch. Cut threads. Now if you're done sewing, what you want to do is you want to cut all this little extra stuffy off, just to get rid of it.
So you're cutting it from a 1/4 inch to
just
an 1/8 of an inch.
Yeah, just get rid of all that extra little stuff. And then you want to turn it. And then you got this little guy.
So she's going to use a stiletto to try to get the point out. And when you started, since you started the very beginning of your strip, the first strip was already closed off.
Correct. I always finish off both ends. The next row you don't have to worry about finishing off because it's going to be in the seam. Now that we've enclosed the ends, now we can start marking. Once again, the first row, you leave it a 1/2 inch from each edge. The first row, it's about 1.5 inches from the bottom because these are 2-inch. Okay, so 1.5 inches is about here. I should wear higher. And then the next row, you want to do 1 3/4 inches. That's why we have the tape on here, so you don't have to look every time.
So the first row is 1.5 inches, and all the other rows are 1 3/4 inches. And we just used painter's tape, which doesn't leave a sticky residue, so you can pull that up.
Okay,
And
honey.
it won't damage your ruler in any way.
Yep. Thank you.
We're going to use these guides to attach our ruffles.
Okay, thanks. So then we sew in the first row. I'm going to change my foot to the one with the guide. Okay, now we're going to pin this on the first row. and you just want to make sure you leave that little 1/2 inch, and you would just want to butt the top of the scallop on the line.
So now we're going to go to the sewing machine and stitch. So are we going to use a 1/4 inch?
I'm going to just use my guide foot this is like one of my favorite feet. We're going to sew the scallop on top of the fabric. And the nice thing about the Bernina is it has an automatic walking foot on it. I'm using the guide foot because I want a perfect stitch going across. If you don't have that, just make sure you use a walking foot because you have so much fabric and you want it to feed evenly. So let me move this over just a titch. So you start sewing and see how that guide just makes it sew in the same spot all the way across. Now that we've finished the first row, now we go on to the second. The second row, the nice thing is you just go straight to the edge.
So you don't have to finish the beginning and the end of the ruffle because you're going to sew it in your seam.
What I like to do is make sure that this lines up right over
The intersection of
right.
the...
And then you just place it on top. And I just cut it off. And I worry about cutting everything off after I've sewn it all. Because you could just go, with a rotary cutter, just cut it all off in one quick, easy.
So you've cut it like 1/2 inch outside.
Yep, in case I look at it and go, it's not quite right. So what you want to do is just match it up like you did before, and I just leave just a little bit on top because you still want it just to cover that little top, and just pin it, cut it.
So we've got a total of 8 rows.
And once again, leave a 1/2 inch on each side. The other ones you do put in the seam, 8 rows. You'll have this little piece left for something else down the road. Now we're done sewing the top row. Now our last thing we do before sewing the pillow together is we got to cut all this excess off.
You can see how perfect her rows are. They're so perfect.
Thanks. But now we just got to make sure this looks perfect.
So you're just trimming exactly on the edge of your first pink polka dot fabric.
Yep.
Just trimming the extra scallops off.
So you move the zipper to the center, and then you're going to put right sides together. Then you need some pins, and then you make sure this last row is out of your way, so you don't sew it. The one that's going to overhang.
Your first row.
So you put the zipper together. Make sure it's just nice and even. Thank you. Okay. Just match everything up. Make sure it's even here.
So you're going to pin at the beginning and the end and then kind of ease it in.
Yep. I'm going to get all these little rows all nice and even.
Pin all the corners.
And then this one, you just scrunch it up like this. And I'll cut the zipper off after I'm done sewing. Let me make sure this bottom, I don't sew it, so I move it over. Just make sure all the sides are going down straight so you don't have to undo it and go, oh my gosh, I got one crooked. Now you're going to finish the pillow and sew around it. The best part, because then you know you're done. Okay, then I'm going to sew it. And I always go over the zipper a couple times because I want to make sure that it doesn't come undone. We are done sewing. Yay! So now what we're going to do is I'm going to cut this, just the little corners, get rid of some of the fabric.
So you're cutting like a little triangle off
Yep.
each corner.
And then we get to cut this. I just leave a little extra.
Okay.
And then what we do is put right sides out. And the coolest thing is my pusher, because it doesn't have a real sharp corner.
The 90-degree pusher.
Yep. You just push this little baby out and you don't have to worry about it going and making a hole.
There's so much fabric in
There's
there.
so much fabric, it's really hard, but that's
To
about as
push it
good as
out.
I'm gonna get it for the momenti. Work at
pretty
it
good.
later. I mean, there's like, how many layers there? Lots and lots. But I'm always afraid I'm gonna go through the fabric if I use something that's really pointy.
Yeah, that's a great use of your
Oh, pot
pusher.
holders, honey. You can miter corners, you can do colors. It's got tons of different things you can do with it. Then what I usually do, the pin queen that I am, I always take this.
So you're evening out the seam by pulling the fabric up, pinning.
And then I'm going to iron it. Okay, then you bring the iron. And then I just use steam. I always use steam. Some people don't like it, but I do. And then once you take, and do that once, you take the pins out, and once you re-steam it, the pin marks go away. And the zipper looks awesome.
So we're using a 14-inch pillow form.
Then you just shove it in. Then I always make sure it gets up in the corners really good. And then you just zip it up. I like to be able to wash my stuff and take out.
The pillow. Thank you so much for coming, Janet. This is my favorite project we've ever featured on my YouTube channel.
Thank you.
We hope that, all of you make some pillows and send us some pictures. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.